back for another rankings episode. And this one, y'all, is a double whammy, y'all. Quarterbacks and tight ends. We're going to go knock those positions out for y'all. So y'all know what to do on draft day, how to tackle the quarterback and tight end positions. So I'm here once again with Josh. What's up, bro?
What's going on, man? Love me some quarterbacks, man. So I'm ready to talk about some quarterbacks. I'm fair when it comes to tight ends, so I'm a little more excited about the quarterback side, but I'm ready to jump into it, man.
Yeah, man, quarterbacks make for good debates, but that one thing to say, this is a disclaimer, y'all. If you can, wait on a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's usually the way to go. However, there are a couple exceptions, and those two, we'll just kick this right off here. Tier 1 is the big two. I mean, these two are just, I mean, they're too good to ignore. If they're there in round 3, you got to consider them, and that's Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I mean, these two are just, I mean, Mahomes was just, he's got the golden arm. I mean, he's insane. He's got 5,000 plus yard upside, 40 to 50 touchdown upside. And he does it without even throwing that many picks. I mean, it's incredible what he does. He's Brett Favre without the picks. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, he's just this. I mean, he's just the chosen one. It seems like, and the Chiefs gave him that ridiculous contract, and rightfully so. I think he earned it. As crazy as the contract seems, I think a few years from now we'll look back and be like, it wasn't all that crazy.
Right.
I mean, he's definitely. And I feel like he's an elite QB1, and he's my overall QB1 this year. I feel like he'll be back to being the MVP this season. I think he's going to take that MVP back from Lamar, because, I mean, Lamar is really good, and especially for fantasy, because of that rushing upside. I mean, that rushing upside he's got is no one can even touch him as far as that. And, I mean, the only thing that concerns me, regression as a passer, particularly in the passing touchdowns department. He threw, I believe, like 35, 36 touchdowns, something through the roof last year. Mm-hmm. That ain't happening again, y'all. To me, I'm just going to be, I think that was a fluke. I really do. I don't see him throwing for nearly that many touchdowns, especially in a conservative run-first offense. And so with that touchdown regression coming, I also think he'll have some sort of regression in the rushing yards department as well. I think he could maybe still crack 1,000, but overall, they're not really feeling him as like a second rounder. I don't think he'll do quite as well as he did last year. But hey, him and Mahomes in the third, I could be down with that.
Yeah. There's not too much to say about Mahomes. He's amazing. Period. Cut and dry. Move on. Jackson, I'm gonna fight you a little bit on this one, just because I like Jackson's work ethic. I think he's a very hard worker, and I think he's been determined to continually progress in the passing game. And I do think he'll continue to do that. I do see some regression in the rushing. I'm with you on that one. But with passing, because they're so worried about stacking the box and stopping the run, you got guys like Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews one-on-one all day, and even Willie Snead, like...
Willie Snead?
Look,
Did you just name drop Willie Snead?
Hold on. I'm not trying to say Willie Snead's going to be an amazing... I'm just saying, Willie Snead's still a good wide receiver. He's a veteran wide receiver. He's a good route runner. He's going to be one-on-one against backup cornerbacks all game. So...
They drafted his replacement in the Duvernay, Devin Duvernay.
Oh yeah, that stud. Oh yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think that Jackson's gonna regress when it comes to the pass game. I think he'll either stay even or he might even progress a little bit. I'm actually more worried about injury than anything. Not that
that's a good point.
Not that Jackson's been hurt or anything. It's just that when you take that many hits as a quarterback, he doesn't really like to slide that much. Although he does seem like he's getting a little smarter.
Yeah, I gotta say, he is a smart runner. I'll give him that. As much as he runs, he's very smart.
But as much as he runs, he still does open himself up to a big hit here and there. And it's just be wary about that whenever you're spending, like you said, a second-round pick on him.
Yeah, don't do that.
That worries me. Remember this. Remember that the reason why all of y'all that want to draft him so early, because he won you your championship last year. Remember the fact that you either drafted him crazy late or you picked him up in free agency. Remember that's why you won your championship. It ain't because you got Lamar Jackson on your team.
I'll second that with the pen.
It ain't because you got Lamar Jackson on your team solely. It's because you drafted the rest of your team, and then you were able to get Lamar Jackson. All right, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, so you take those two guys. Those are the two in tier 1. You don't even look back. Boom, that's it. We're gonna jump right into tier 2. With a guy,
Josh, let's roll. We still gotta get the tight end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With a guy that I would love to put it as a tier 1, but I just think those two guys are just so far ahead when it comes to fantasy that you have to put them in a tier of their own. But if we're talking about real life, Russell Wilson is, in my opinion, the second best quarterback in the league. He's one of my favorite guys to watch play football. He's just so amazing. He's so good. He makes everybody around him better. He's a great leader. But all those unfortunately don't just translate into fantasy points. When it comes to fantasy, he's a very good quarterback, but he's not a bomb tier elite no brainer. You know, like he does have his weeks where he scores 15 points, and it sucks. You
Yeah,
know,
Seattle stubborn, man. They love
yeah.
to run the football. They
So
with OC Brian Schottenheimer.
right. So
Which is why in our last episode I wasn't really feeling as good about DK and Lockett
right.
as you were, but you seem to believe that they're gonna have to give in and throw more this
Yeah,
year.
I still think they'll be fine. But yeah, so he'll outline my tier two just because he's the best playmaker in the game. Either him or Mahomes, but he's such an amazing playmaker. But I also have Kyler Murray, I have Dak Prescott, and I have Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson, he's probably my favorite quarterback. I've loved him since he came out of college. I've been a big truther of his. He's got some problems in Houston. That's the only reason why he's not a tier one quarterback. Their offensive line stinks. Their coaching stinks. Their general manager stinks. Just so happen to be the same person.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. And so all those things hold him back from being a tier one. But because he is so good, he's so talented, he himself causes himself to be able to stay in that tier two range to where you can still draft him in the eighth or ninth round and be confident that you got yourself a good quarterback. Kyler's showing that he's basically Russell Wilson light. The guy throws a beautiful football. One of the prettiest balls, honestly, in the league. His touch is amazing.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And he can run.
And he gives
He
you the
got
rushing
rushing
upside.
ability
So he very well could be in that tier one
too. I was about to
conversation
say.
next
I was
year.
about to say. Yeah. I was about to say.
I'm not ready to put him this year, but he could be next year. He very well could be.
Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it a step further. I'll say he will be next year.
Okay.
And I was very tempted to put him this year. I couldn't quite do it, but I was very tempted to. I say this time next year, he will be in tier one. Kyler Murray will be there. I'm all in. Kyler Murray, give him to me. Chips on the table.
I'm still not 100% sold on his head coach, even though I kind of like him and I think his head coach has potential. Still not 100% sold yet.
Oh, I'm sold for fantasy.
I want to see it this year again. And if I see it this year and I see that progression, absolutely he'll be tier one next year. But for this year, I'm tempering a little bit, so I got him in my tier two. And then Dak, as much as I'm not a big Dak fan, you know, he's very mediocre.
Hey, I'm surprised you put Dak.
Yeah, but honestly,
how down you were on the Dallas receiving.
But honestly, for fantasy, he's gonna throw the ball 40 times a game. So of course he's gonna put up numbers. So that's fine. People that want to draft him, where they're drafting, that's fine. I'm probably not gonna do it, but he's fine to be in the tier two because he's better. He's gonna probably be better. He's gonna probably finish better than a lot of the guys that I have on tier three. So that's why I have him there.
Okay, and the further
I'm being fair. I'm trying not to.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, because you get so aggravated with that. But the further break this tier down for me, I don't know if that was how you had them ranked, but if so, I'm gonna have to flip flop with you.
It's not how I have them.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, well, if that was the case, then I'd flip flop with you because I gotta say in this tier for me, Kyler and Dak are like. I mean, I'm like obviously Russ and Deshaun are close, but I gotta say in round 6, I'm comfortable taking Kyler or Dak because to me. If you miss out on Mahomes or Lamar, don't even consider a quarterback in the first 5 rounds. But if you saw round 6 and Kyler Murray's on the board, keep that one right. I'm considering him. I'm definitely considering there. And maybe even round 5. Sometimes I'll be greedy and take him in round 5 because I really like Kyler this year. But if I'm being real, it's probably not a good decision to do so in the off chance he doesn't take that expected lead that I'm thinking. However, in round 6, I feel like you've got that a little bit of risk built in, and if he hits that upside, which I believe he will, then you get a good value. And then Dak Prescott, I feel like is worthy to be drafted there as well because I mean he's gonna like Josh said, they're gonna throw it a ton. I mean he's got the weapons, he's got a lot of weapons there, 3 stud wideouts with Cooper, Gallup, and CD. So I mean Dak to me is right. And Wilson and Watson are stud quarterbacks in real life. Like I'm starting a franchise, I'd love to have either of these. Like I'd say they're probably like behind Mahomes. It's like the 2 guys I'd want. However, for fantasy they have red flags. Russ to me is just the run first offense, and then Watson again it's just not really necessarily run first offense. Just the situation as a whole is kind of it's not very good with Bill O'Brien and his receiving core. I mean Fuller's injury prone, Cook's concussion prone. His O-line's not good. He's always under pressure.
Doesn't have a tight end. It's
Yeah, no
just,
tight end. Yeah, Russ, I got his O line's a little better, and he's got tight end and receivers. His situation overall is better. That's why I have him a spot above Watson. Watson's situation is just not good. If you draft Watson, make sure to get a decent second quarterback because he could, I hate to say it, but he could end up injured. Kind of like saying about Lamar running a lot. Watson's going to be running for his life. So,
yeah.
yeah, because that's just not a very good situation to hold. But yeah, though, this tier, though, can have value. A lot of times the one I take is Kyler. I usually never find myself targeting. Because a lot of times I'll take Kyler, and then that'll trigger people to draft Dak, Russ, and Watson right after that. I notice that. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Like, if you take Kyler there, you can kind of, like, control the draft in a way. Like, it can kind of, like, help set the tone in it. Where if you like get scared and don't take Kyler, then you risk getting stuck with this crap quarterback, and then if someone else takes him, then there could be a huge QB run potentially. And by the time it gets back to you in round 7, then you might as well just wait.
Right.
But yeah, let's get into. I feel like we covered tier 2 pretty well. Let's get into tier 3. These are guys to me that are borderline QB1s, guys that I would trust most weeks to be QB1s. However, if you take them, there is some risk built in, so I would recommend pairing them up with someone. Or if you take, like Mahomes, like, I mean, well, don't even take a backup quarterback, you know? But this group right here, all solid options, I feel like, with QB1 potential, but there are some risk in tight end. But I'll get in the names here. Drew Brees, to me, kicks this tier off. I feel like Brees will be just fine this year. I know with the age, he's over 40, he's an old man, I get it. But guess what? That old man can still throw that football, and he's more accurate than anybody. I mean, he is just has pinpoint laser accuracy. It's incredible. And I mean, he can still get it down the field. He actually said this all season he's been trying to work on getting his deep ball back, which would be an even added bonus. I mean, if he could get his deep ball back, he'd be in tier 2. I feel like, but I'm not super confident that he'll be able to. But even without it, not as good of a deep ball, I still feel like with Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, it's going to be just boom, just first down, first down, first down. I mean, it's just going to be a clinic. I mean, I feel like going to put on a clinic all year, be very consistent. And then after him, I say Josh Allen and Matt Ryan are guys I feel pretty good about as my QB1s. Allen's got that rushing ability. Ryan is just a very solid passer. He's basically a lock for 4,000 to 4,500 yards year in and year out. Has two stud wideouts in Ridley and Julio. And after them, I gotta give another old guy some respect. Tom Brady. I mean, not a huge Brady lover, never have been. But in Tampa Bay, that Bruce Arians area, I gotta say, I think he's got top 10 QB potential this year. I really do. I mean, he's got two of the best receivers in the game and a great tight end group. So I mean, I feel like Brady's solid. And Carson Wentz, gotta put some respect on his name. I know he's been hurt, but still, I feel like this guy's got potential to really break out. And I mean, obviously, take a good QB2 along with him. But I mean, if he breaks out, y'all, he could be really good. And last year, a lot of people get on him, but he actually had a really solid year last year. He was pretty solid, consistent. The Eagles love to throw with Doug Peterson. And then after them, there's only 3 more guys I have on here. And these 3 I'm not quite as confident about, but they're guys that you gotta still have in the QB1 mix. One was Matthew Stafford, and I'd be more confident in him if it wasn't for his back. I mean, like I've said in previous episodes, I'm a believer in the Lions' offense. I believe it'll be better than people are giving it credit for, but Matt Stafford has to play in order for that to happen. And I feel like when he's on the field, he's going to be borderline QB1, could be an elite QB1. I mean, he was on a ridiculous pace last year, but
MVP candidate.
exactly, yeah. I don't think he'll keep that pace up. I mean, I still think he'll be solid. And then Danny Dimes, got to throw Danny Dimes in here, I feel like, because he's got a lot of upside there. And you hark their defense is trash, so he's going to be throwing a ton. And he can run a little bit. I mean, I think Danny Dimes is good. And he's got a good receiving core to top it off. And then, oh, this guy, he frustrates me so much, but got to throw him in here, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, just Gotta throw him in, but I'm not very confident. Would not trust him as my QB1. It was tough for me to even put him on this tier. I had to, though, because, I mean, he's still capable of having those huge weeks. I just feel like, though, with the Matt LaFleur run first off, and he's going to be kind of turbulent, and he doesn't have much else on Devontae Adams, but overall, though, he'll still be solid a lot of weeks and be a borderline QB1, I feel like.
Yeah, you mentioned every single player that I have, except that I don't have Aaron Rodgers on there just simply because I can't trust him as my QB1. But for the most part, all these other guys I can trust as my QB1. Wentz and Stafford, yeah, you have to worry a little bit about injury. Even though Wentz, I believe Wentz played all the games last year, and he looked good. Like he looked inconsistent sometimes, but I'm gonna chalk that up a lot of that due to the whole wide receiver mess that they had in Philadelphia. So I think with Jalen Rager coming in, Miles Sanders there for another year. He's got some weapons in there. I think Ertz has a bounce back year. He's got two really good tight ends with Ertz and Goddard. I think Wentz is. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be back to MVP form exactly, but I do think that he's gonna take a step up definitely from last year. So I also have Allen, Wentz, Brady, Brees, Stafford, Ryan, and Daniel Jones. Brady was close to being in my tier two simply because of his weapons, his new toys that he has. And I'm with you on Brees. Brees was close as well because if Brees can get that deep ball back, the fact that he has now Emmanuel Sanders to pair up with Michael Thomas, and then you have Kamara coming out the backfield with Jared Cook. Come on, good luck.
Good luck stopping that.
Good luck. So, yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad we agreed on most of these, but we still gotta get the tight ends.
Yep.
But yeah, before we finish QB, we're gonna cap it off here with the quarterback, a late round quarterback that could break out and be a QB1. And for me, the guy that's going way too late in drafts that I feel like is a very reliable QB2, a QB1 upside, Gardner Minshew, y'all. The Minshew mania, trust in the stash. I believe it, man. I believe in Minshew being a legitimate NFL starting quarterback and also a legitimate fantasy asset because I believe in Jacksonville they're gonna have to throw it a lot. It's similar to Danny Dimes. The defense stinks, so they're gonna have to throw it a lot. And also Minshew can run. Minshew has some legs on him. He can run. People act like he's just some joke or something like, oh, Minshew. Minshew is not to be slept on, y'all. Minshew, I feel like this year could really turn some heads. And while I'm not saying the Jags are gonna win that many games, he's somebody. If the Jags do just like a total rebuild and blow up the team, he's somebody. If I'm a team with a good defense that all I'm missing is a quarterback, for example, the Chicago Bears, or just somebody. I'm just throwing him as a name. I mean, he's somebody I could have been. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there. For fantasy 2020, Gardner Minshew, I feel like he's in a good situation there. He's gonna be playing for mine and can run. So give me the Minshew mania. Who you got, Josh?
So I'm actually gonna go with Kirk Cousins. I'm not gonna talk too much about him, but you can get him super late. So you can get him as your quarterback too. He's just kind of one of those guys where he's gonna be pretty consistent. He'll get you about 15 to 20 every week. But I kind of touched on the wide receiver episode where he's gonna have a lot less pressure on him this year without the fans and everything there. So he could bust out and have a really good year. It's possible. So.
Yeah, they are on the road. Like, like I don't remember his home road supposed to be that bad, but I mean, yeah, I see. Yeah, he could possibly break out, especially if Dalvin Cook would go down. Then they would probably have to throw more.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for quarterbacks. We'll have the full top 24 up on IG, but let's shift gears here to tight ends. So that's how I say it's similar to quarterbacks in that the tier one is like a clear cut elite top two. George Kittle and Travis Kelce.
Yep. Not much to say.
Yeah, not much to say.
If you're drafting tight ends early, which again I don't recommend you do, but I would prefer you draft tight ends early than quarterbacks. If you're gonna do it, if you pick anybody before Kittle and Kelce, you're probably gonna lose. You're probably gonna lose your fantasy season. So those are the top two guys. You don't even think about picking anybody before those two.
Right. Well, let's break it down in comparison to WR1s because I feel like this. I feel like if Travis Kelce and George Kittle were wide receivers, we'd have them as borderline WR1s, wouldn't we not? We'd have them right there around the same range as I'd say they'd be 9th and 10th. I'd have them ranked right below Kenny Galladay and Mike Evans.
As much as I think Kittle is a better overall tight end, as far as non-fantasy purposes goes, Kelce is the better fantasy tight end as far as receiving goes. So like Kelce, I would trust as a wide receiver one. I'd have Kittle a little bit more in the wide receiver two range.
I think Kittle will be more involved as a receiver this year. I really do, especially with Debo.
I don't trust Shanahan basically.
And then who else? Jalen Hurd. Yeah, that is a good point though. Shanahan could be a pain in the butt, but I think they're gonna be forced to use Kittle. I mean, Kittle is a freaking beast, and as much as I like Kelce, I feel like Kittle has slightly more upside. But either way, I mean, it's like 1A, 1B. They're right next to each other, and so because of that, I would have them say I was maybe even late second, but definitely early third for these two.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say yeah. And then to me, the next tier I hate to just make another like baby tier, but I mean to me it's just I gotta go with Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz for me in tier two. I mean because to me they're the only tight ends I consider taking in like the fifth or sixth round, which is like the mid. I kind of like the quarterbacks like Dak and Kyler and Russ, Deshaun, like those. But I feel like nobody else, no other tight ends are really worthy to be in the same tier as Andrews and Ertz. Because I feel like Andrews, I mean, in Baltimore, I think he could do even, possibly even better this year as far as receptions and yards. His touchdowns could drop some, but I think it'll be all set with the increase in yards and receptions. And then Ertz, I mean, Ertz is just so rock solid, so consistent. I mean, doesn't have the upside of Kittle and Kelsey, but I mean, he's got the consistency down. So I would gotta say those two. Do you have anybody else in your tier two, Joe?
I do. I also have Ertz and Andrews. I believe Andrews is going to be pretty consistent. Ertz, I think, is going to have a pretty big bounce back year this year. I think he's actually getting slept on a little too much because he's worthy of being up in tier one. He just had a bad year last year. So did the rest of the entire Eagles offense. So I do think with the uptick in their offense getting better, I think he also gets an uptick this year, and I think we see old form Zach Ertz again. Um, I have Darren Waller in here, but here's the deal. Like I like Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller as a talent, he deserves to be in this tier. The problem though is, well, like I said in the wide receiver episode, or I think I said in the running back episode, if Mariota takes over this offense, which is looking like he possibly will at some point, Darren Waller's value goes straight into the toilet. Hit the button, turn around, walk out the bathroom. It's done with. All right, because Mariota is garbage, and he's gonna completely put Waller in the tanker. So because of that, I'm perfectly fine with anybody put him in tier three. I think though, I'm sorry, if I'm drawing a blank on the starting quarterback.
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. If they keep Derek Carr as the starter, Darren Waller can stay in this tier two list.
I got you. Yeah, I just the reason I'm down on Waller and I don't even have him in this tier two. Like I'm kind of surprised you included him. The reason I don't have him is because of the added weapons there in Las Vegas. I mean, they've now got Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs, a couple of promising rookies, and then Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfrow were favorites of course too last year. I mean, Waller though he was the guy a lot of last year. I gotta give him credit. He was very consistent. However, I feel like Edwards and Ruggs' presence are definitely gonna damper his outlook, which is why I have him in tier three, which is actually a big one. We're probably gonna have to spend more time on this tier because I mean there's a lot of tight ends in this group.
I want to say one thing to your point right there. I think that actually helps Waller because I think Waller came out of nowhere last year. No one expected Waller to do what he was going to do. So you would think that for this year they would game plan for it and take him out of offense. Well, they're not going to be able to do that very easily with those added weapons that are going to be in that offense. So with that, they're not going to be able to focus on Waller like I would have thought that they were going to be able to do. And I think, again, if Derek Carr stays in the offense, we're going to see pretty similar, maybe a little bit of a regress, but I think we're going to see pretty similar.
Okay, so you don't think the target share decreases?
Not much.
I think
maybe a little bit, but not much.
I think it decreases by a pretty significant amount, but we shall see. Maybe Mariota will start immediately, then you can flush him down the
then don't even draft him. But all right, so I'll go ahead and start with the tier three because I have to start off with a tear jerker. Unfortunately, I have to put Evan Ingram in tier three this year.
I can respect it.
He's one of my favorite. He's probably my favorite tight end to watch besides George Kittle. Because when he's healthy, I mean, he's a glorified wide receiver. He's incredible. He has so much speed. He has so much size. His route running is excellent. He's so good. If this guy is fully healthy, he's in the tier one, and there's no question about it. But unfortunately, he's never fully healthy. He's never even, honestly, partially healthy. The guy's always hurt. He's always dealing with some kind of injury. And so on talent alone, he stays in tier three. But honestly, he's kind of, unfortunately, somebody that you can't trust drafting this year. It is what it is.
Yeah, the good thing with him being in tier three, a lot of times he'll fall to like the 9th or 10th round. A lot of people, he was like a tier two tight end. But not anymore because people realize how injury prone he is. But he's actually becoming a pretty good value in drafts. And actually, the only other tight end I would have over him in this year would be Tyler Higbee. I really like Higbee this season because I feel like that 5-game stretch run of his last year was not a fluke. I've been telling people that it's not a fluke. It was too good to ignore. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but people still want to tell me, oh, Higbee's going to fall off a cliff. he sucks. He's not a tight end one. Gerald Everett, blah, 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 blah. Listen, y'all, draft Tyler Higbee with confidence as a tight end one. That stretch run he was on last year was insane. He was on pace for, I think it was like 100 catches or 1,800 yards. Obviously, he's not going to maintain that. We can agree on that, right? He's not going to maintain that pace. But even with regression, let's say he regresses to someone, let's say 75 catches for 800 to 900 yards. And I also think he'll catch more touchdowns this year. He only caught 3 last year. I'd say he catch like 6 or 7. That's tight end one numbers, no doubt. I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, and that's with a lot of regression factored in. So even with that regression factored in, Higbee's a tight end one, and he could even do better than what I projected him at just now. So he's the most confident tight end. The tight end I have the most confidence in tier 3.
Okay. I have Higbee in tier 3 too. I'm not quite as high as you on him because it is a small sample size, and I think that also you can't ignore that. I understand it was a very good small sample size, but it still is a small sample size. But it does show that he has some chemistry with Jared Goff. And now, again, with Cooks being gone, it's very possible that he could continue that type of production. If he does, if he continues that production that he had in those 5 games, he's going to be in tier 2 next year, no doubt.
Maybe even tier 1.
Maybe he might even push tier 1.
I mean, he outproduced Kittle and Kelsey last year down the stretch.
Right. So I have him in tier 3. I also have Jared Cook. I think he showed with Breeze at the end of last year when Breeze came back and was fully healthy and they were playing together. I mean, he was rock solid. So I think you can be confident in taking him as late as he's going. I have Gronk in here just because of the upside, just because Gronk was so amazing when he was playing. But let's not forget he was very injury prone, and let's also not forget that one of the things that made Gronk so amazing was the fact that he was so much bigger than everyone else that he was able to shield the defenders away and catch balls. He's not as big as he used to be. All right, so keep that in mind.
I'm not feeling Gronk.
Keep that in mind. I'm not picking him at all. I'm putting him in there simply because he's playing with Brady, and the potential, of course, is with Brady and Gronk is always amazing. So he's only in there for that type of upside, but it is a very, very long shot that I'm not taking any chance on. I also have Austin Hooper, Hayden Hurst. Those are guys that are kind of getting drafted late. I like both of them. I think they can be pretty decent for you. I don't think really nothing more needs to be said. Austin Hooper was really good last year. Don't expect the same thing in Cleveland, but you can expect him to be decent.
Right, that's what I keep telling people. A lot of people saying, "Oh, Hooper's gonna suck this year." I don't think he's gonna suck. Stefanski utilizes the tight end, and I think Hooper will be just fine.
Right.
Obviously not as good as he was in Atlanta, but I still think like a fringe tight end one for sure.
Right, and I personally like Hayden Hurst a lot. I think he's a really good, solid tight end that gets slept on a lot. And he's taking the place of Austin Hooper. And we saw that Austin Hooper had a really good role. Who's to not say that Hayden Hurst can't have the same role?
Right, yeah, a lot of targets up for grabs. Hurst hadn't really done it for me as a receiver. He's one of those guys showed me. He hadn't really shown me much. So, I mean, he's going a little too high for my taste.
He is going too high.
But he is somebody to, for a lot of y'all that play in leagues with people that aren't quite as up on it as we are, like a lot of leagues, we got Hayden Hurst, who's that? Then you can get him late in like your typical barroom league type thing.
Yeah, and the last guy on my tier 3, I'm going to talk about is somebody I'm pretty high on this year is Mike Gesicki.
Oh, that's my guy. He stole him. He's Mike Gesicki. I'm with you on that, man. 100%. I love Gesicki this year.
He's getting drafted pretty late this year, and I like that. He's honestly getting drafted a lot as a tight end too if you're picking 2 tight ends. For whatever reason. But you can also wait on tight end.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was just waiting and grab him.
And you can grab him super
tight end,
late.
I trust him as a tight end one.
After you've gotten all your depth, after you've gotten your quarterback, you can now go and you can get a guy like Mike Gesicki who very well could bump into that tier 2 list after the end of this year. He's a very good, young, athletic tight end. And let's be honest, if Tua takes over, that's going to be a big toy for him to be able to play with, all right? And don't be surprised if him and Tua get real comfortable with each other real fast.
Indeed. I agree. I'm all in with Gesicki. And is that it for your tier?
That's it for my tier.
Okay, yeah. Somebody I feel like that slipped through the cracks in your list, but he's a guy. I'm not a huge fan of this guy, but he's somebody to me that definitely deserves to be in this tier. That's Hunter Henry. I feel like Hunter Henry is going to be solid, even with I know it's a downgrading quarterback. I know he's had his share of injuries. But Henry looks like he's fully healthy now, and when healthy, he's very solid. He's a top 8 tight end when healthy. And I feel like Tyrod and Herbert, they'll be able to rotate. They'll probably have to rely on the tight end a lot in their first year. Tyrod's first year in the system. Herbert's first year as in the NFL. So I mean, I think Hunter Henry could do really well there. Just he's not gonna be like a great upside play, but I feel like he's a safe, solid floor guy as long as he's healthy. But I believe he will because the injuries he suffered are both like really major injuries. They weren't like nagging type injuries. Like Evan Ingram always has something nagging him, where Henry like seems to be, as long as he doesn't suffer any major injuries, he's good to go. So hopefully he'll bounce back this year. I mean, because last year he did all right, but he faded down the stretch. I think this year he could be a little more consistent. And I think the only other guy I'd have to sneak into this tier would be Noah Fant because of the upside there in Denver. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of Fant. I'd rather go with the safer route with Gesicki or Hooper, but Fant definitely has that upside. He's had, I think, a couple 100-yard games last year, so the upside's there. And I mean, in Denver, with the it's a young receiving core, so Fant could possibly work his way to getting a really nice target share there. And with Drew Lock, on quarterback, they showed some flashes there last season down the stretch. So yeah, I'd be okay with Fant. If someone, let's say some idiot grabs 2 tight ends in the first 8 rounds, you're like, oh man, who am I gonna grab my tight end 1 if I'm waiting? Well, and let's say you get sniped by someone who takes Gesicki, well, don't feel bad. You could probably grab Fant right after.
Yeah. Fant is an athletic freak, so I wouldn't shed a tear for having Fant either.
Okay, so yeah, basically the only difference, you said you're with me on Fant. The only difference was I don't have Gronk in the tier, and you don't have Henry.
Right.
I think that was mainly our only difference. The reason I don't have Gronk is because I just feel like it's a tight end by committee, and I know it's Brady, but I mean it's also Arians though, and Arians traditionally doesn't like the tight end, and I mean I know Brady's gonna definitely utilize the tight end more, but what's not to say OJ Howard will be in there more, Cameron Brate. I mean, to me Gronk is a hard fade for me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not drafting him. I literally only put him there because the potential with him and Brady reconnecting is, it is what it is. I'm not drafting him. So.
Alright, so I think that covers tier 3. So, alright, before we wrap up tight ends, let's do our guy that we feel could be a breakout. Would you like to start it off, Joe?
Yeah, I'm actually going to start with Jonnu Smith.
Good one. Guy's a great one. I was like, if you would have named him, that would have been my pick.
I actually saw a stat today that kind of wowed me. He was second to George Kittle in yards after catch since like 2010 or something like that. It was something ridiculous like that. So clearly, this guy, when he's on the field, is really good, especially after he catches the football. So, I think he's had kind of Delaney Walker, if I'm not mistaken. He's kind of had him overshadowing him for a while, whatever. I'm pretty sure he's by himself now in that offense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Delaney Walker's not there anymore.
Right. He's by himself.
Right, he's by himself. So, dude, look, man, if this is somebody that really is not even being drafted. So
yeah, he's creeping up in there, but he's still at a really good value.
So he's great value, and who knows? Maybe he could win you your league. You never know. But yeah, that's my guy. That's my league guy.
Good deal. Yeah, they mine too. So I'm trying to think of someone else that could possibly be that late guy. I would say. I mean, I hate to say this name because it's such a boring name, but Jack Doyle, y'all. I mean, I think he could be all right. True. I think he's somebody that could be a stabilizer. If let's say you draft Evan Ingram and he goes down, and you just need a safe, stable guy, Jack Doyle could be that guy. I mean, he could be in there stable, and if you're in a really deep league and you miss out, if you want a backup time, but you miss out on like a safer guy like Jack Doyle, you could always just go with like a speculative late. A lot of guys notice that go undrafted. Ian Thomas could possibly be somebody that could be good, and Ebron maybe, and also Jay Sternberger with the Packers. I mean, there's a lot of targets there up for grabs, and I know he's a raw prospect, but he's somebody if you're just looking to take a dart throw, why not?
Yep.
So,
cool.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up here for quarterbacks and tight ends. Again, make sure not to reach too high for either of these positions. The leader there in round 3. Don't be afraid, but also. Just keep in mind, just don't reach. Don't be that guy that takes a quarterback round 1. And as long as you stay disciplined, stick to the plan, trust the process of the draft flow and all that, you'll be good. So, good deal. All right, y'all. That'll wrap it up for our ranking series. We'll be back on next week for our guys and our avoids. And so, yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll have a lot more content for y'all on the way on the Guru Nation podcast.